Thank you all for being here today, even in this cold, frigid weather, and welcome to the Southland, the wonderful place I am proud to call home. It's an honor to join you for this important civic forum here at South Suburban College, and I want to extend my sincere thanks to my sisters of the South Suburban Chicago chapter of the Links Incorporated for hosting today's event and for our decades of service and leadership. Our focus on education and civic engagement truly reflects what democracy in action looks like. I also would like to thank our moderator, Tia Ewing, the candidates participating today, and everyone who has joined us, especially our young people and first-time voters. We appreciate that you chose to spend your Saturday morning right here engaged in this democratic process. And as the county clerk, I manage and administer elections for suburban Cook County. That responsibility requires neutrality, fairness, and an unwavering commitment to access and integrity. And I want to state again that the Links Incorporated is a nonpartisan organization. And this is a democratic forum, but we are open to also hosting forums of other parties. And I do want to acknowledge someone in the room who is running for U.S. Senate on the Republican ticket, Tyrone Muhammad. It also serves as a constant reminder that even in challenging times, democracy matters deeply to the people it serves. And let's be honest, these are challenging times. Across our country, many people are feeling frustrated and uncertain. Trust in institutions is being tested, civility in public discourse is strained, and too often division is replacing dialogue. But moments like this reminds us that democracy is not only about outcomes, it is about the process. It is about creating space for ideas to be shared, questions to be asked, and leaders to be held accountable in a respectful and transparent way. And that is what today's forum is all about. It's not about telling people what to think. It's about giving voters the information they need to make an informed decision. Community-based events like this are the backbone of a healthy democracy. They provide direct, unfiltered opportunities to hear from the candidates about their values, their priorities, and their vision for the future. And this matters because our democracy works best when people are informed and feel seen, heard, and respected. In the clerk's office, we often say that access alone is not enough. People must also feel confident in the system, welcomed into it, and empowered by it, especially young voters and those participating for the first time. When someone's first interaction with democracy is clear and respectful, they are far more likely to stay engaged for life. Today's forum helps us do just that. By bringing democracy into this community where we live and work, this event centers on education over noise, and it models what civic engagement can look like when it is rooted in respect, even when there are differences of opinion. In the clerk's office, we also support efforts that encourage informed participation, thought dialogue, and civic learning. Because a democracy where people disengage or feel disencouraged is one that weakens over time. A democracy is which people show up, ask questions, listen, and vote, and one that endures. So today, I encourage everyone here to listen with curiosity, engage respectfully, and remember that disagreement does not have to mean division. Democracy has always required participation in good faith, and it always will. So I want to say again that the Links Incorporated is a nonpartisan organization. We are here to host the 3 Democratic candidates on the ballot. Also, we have a write-in on the ballot. His name will be announced after the forum. But today, 2 of the Democratic participants showed up to the forum. The 2 that showed up to the forum are Congresswoman Robin Kelly and Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. They are here today, and thank you for making this forum a priority. And I want to thanks again to my chapter, which I'm beyond proud to be a member of the Links, for your leadership, to South Suburban College for hosting this event, and to everyone who made today's forum possible. I look forward to a thoughtful and engaging conversation. I thank each of you for doing your part to keep our democracy strong. Thank you, everyone. And now I would like to introduce my good friend, the brilliant and beautiful Tia Ewing Walker.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. For a minute, I didn't know. I thought some of y'all still be in the club when Will Carter was on the guitar. I was like, is this a forum or what's going on? It is good to be with you this morning, and welcome to the Illinois U.S. Senate Democratic Primary Forum, hosted by the South Suburban Chicago, Illinois chapter of the Links Incorporated. I am Tia Ewing. I do a lot of things. I don't even know what to call my title anymore, but you can find me at Fox Chicago where I work. I'm always doing something there. Thank you, I appreciate that. Again, I want to thank our candidates, community partners, and residents for joining us for this important civic conversation. So I want to give you a little background about the Links Incorporated. It is an international nonprofit organization founded in 1946 and comprised of professional women of African descent committed to friendship and also service. You can give a round of applause for that. The South Suburban Chicago chapter, chartered in 1976, serves communities across the Southland through education, civic engagement, health, and cultural programming. The chapter will celebrate its 50th anniversary on June 6th of 2026. That is a long time. You can clap for that if you want. I want to make sure we stress this, that this event is a non-partisan event. The purpose of today's forum is civic education, not political endorsement. No candidate is endorsed or supported over another. Today's forum is part of the Chicago chapters of LEGO, which is Links Eliminating Gaps Through Opportunities Academy. It is a year-long, multi-generational civic and leadership program serving residents of South Suburban Chicago. The Academy serves grades 6 through 12, adults and also senior citizens. New participants are welcomed annually, and returning participants have renewal opportunities. Where are all the people that are part of this chapter? Are they all wearing green? Give yourselves a round of applause for organizing all of this. Thank you. So please follow the South Suburban Chicago chapter of the Links Incorporated on social media to learn more about joining the LEGO Academy. Now let's talk about the forum, because that's why we're all here. Today's forum provides voters with an opportunity to hear directly from candidates seeking the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate. The discussion will focus on issues impacting South Suburban communities, the state of Illinois, and also the entire nation. So let's get into the rules here in terms of what you can expect. Candidates are asked to respect time limits. Where's my timekeeper? There she is right there. So make sure you pay attention for her. And also one another. And we thank the audience for maintaining a respectful and engaged environment. Maybe you hear something you don't like, keep it to yourself, respectfully. Candidates will participate alphabetically by last name. So we have Congresswoman Robin Kelly, who can come up now. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, nice to see you. Yes, you can be seated. Roger Krishnamurthy had the opportunity to be here and was going to be here, but had to drop out late, had another commitment. We will leave a seat open just in case something happens and he shows up. And we also have Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton in the house as well, who can come to me. So the structure and timing. Candidates will have opening statements. They will be 3 minutes per candidate, presented alphabetically by last name. 1 hour moderated question and answer session. Questions will focus on policy, leadership, and issues relevant to South Suburban area and statewide communities. 90 seconds per candidate per question. Approximately 12 questions in total. In terms of timekeeping, to ensure fairness and equal time, we will keep strict time limits. A 1 minute warning will be given. There it is right there. Candidates will be notified when the time has expired. Thank you so much for helping us to stay on schedule so each candidate has an equal opportunity to be heard. And finally, LEGO Academy participant questions will happen as well. Those will be 10 minutes in total. You will come to the microphone where you will be able to present with those questions. They will be 60 seconds per candidate per question, and approximately 2 to 3 questions will happen. Okay, and then there will be closing statements. 2 minutes per candidate presented alphabetically by last name, a total time of 6 minutes. We will now begin with opening statements with Congresswoman Robin Cohen. You can stay right where you are and speak into your microphone there.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you to the link.
Gotta push it, yeah. Is it there? Stay.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the links. And I have to compliment you because the last time I was here and spoke, you had a fantastic young girls dance group here. So you know how to find the talent in the South, and Will, you are great. I am Robin Kelly. I'm the daughter of a postal worker and a grocer. I'm a mom, and I'm a very dedicated public servant. And I'm running for U.S. Senate to make your life better and more affordable. I have worked on every level of government. I've been in Congress for almost 13 years, and I've passed very meaningful legislation under Barack Obama, under Donald Trump, and under Joe Biden. I know you don't believe Donald Trump, but that's true. My district is the largest in Illinois. I am truly urban, suburban, and rural, so I have a federal microcosm of the state of Illinois, but I know no matter where you live, people want a roof over their head, they want a decent paying job, good education for their kids, they want health care that is accessible, affordable, and quality. They want to feel safe. And when they retire, people want a little money in their pockets. And that's why I'm running on a platform of people over profits. It's about time that millionaires, billionaires, and corporations pay their fair share of taxes. No more, no less, for their fair share. And when that is done, we can invest in housing, affordable housing. In the richest country in the history of the world, everyone can have health care. People can make decent wages. People won't have to pay more for child care than they're paying for rent. People can feel safe. We can invest in economic development so there is economic opportunity. When people can afford their life, there's dignity in that, and I want you to have dignity in your everyday life. I am a workhorse, not a show horse. I've accomplished a lot representing the 2nd Congressional District in Illinois. I brought back $1.2 billion over that to the district, and that's not speaking about all the people that we have helped in our office. I am very proud to represent the 2nd, but I want to do more because I feel like we all do better when we all do better. So I just want to thank you for all of your support, a lot of constituents in the audience, and know that I want to take my record of fighting and winning to the Senate, and even though I'm running, I'm still fighting. I filed impeachment papers against Kristi Noem. I don't know if you know, but another person just got shot in Minneapolis. Don't know if he's alive. I will be filing the Wells Act. The young lady that had to have her baby on the side of the road is my constituent, and they called me, and I went to action immediately. And for those of you who drive Teslas, there's legislation that's filed called the Safe Exit Act, because if you drive an electric vehicle and you have an accident and the electricity goes out, you need to know how to get out of your car or for them to get you out. So I'm still working my district. Thank you guys so much. I hope you earn your support.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. First, let me thank the South Suburban Chicago chapter of the Links Incorporated for hosting this wonderful forum. I certainly want to acknowledge President Faye Terrell Perkins, and I'm always glad to see 14th National President Gwendolyn B. Lee. I want to acknowledge Cook County Clerk Monica Gordon, and certainly our moderator, Tia Ewing. Thank you for facilitating today's conversation, and thank you to all of you who got up this morning and came out in the cold to stay civically engaged. It really matters when people come out to hear from their candidates. I am Juliana Stratton. I'm so proud to serve as your Lieutenant Governor. For the last 7 years, I've represented all of the state of Illinois. I should also mention that I'm a proud member of the Chicago chapter of the Links Incorporated. My journey really started 10 years ago when I was caring for my mother who had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I too am a mom. I was caring for my children. I was working full time, and I was caring for my mother as her primary caregiver for the final years of her life. And I always say that it was the hardest thing that I have ever done, but it was also the greatest honor of my life to care for my mom in her final years. But at that time, my state representative, was working with our previous governor to strip away health care from seniors like my mother. And I was not going to sit on the sidelines. I knew that people deserve someone to fight for them. So I stepped up and ran against that state representative, a 13-year incumbent, and I won that race because I wanted to fight for people like my mom who deserved access to health care. Now here we are 10 years later, and health care is still on the line, but it's not just health care. Donald Trump and his allies are attacking our rights, attacking our democracy, attacking our communities, attacking our economy, and attacking our freedoms. And once again, I am not sitting on the sidelines. I have stepped up to fight. When I go around this state, what people say to me more than anything else is, I want someone who's going to go to the mat fighting for me. And we need new energy in Washington that's going to meet this moment. I'm proud of what Governor Pritzker and I have been able to accomplish over the last 7 years. We've raised wages, created thousands of good paying jobs. We've protected women's reproductive rights. And we've done so much more. That's the blueprint that I want to take to Washington, D.C. And I came here this morning to let all of you know that when you say that you're looking for someone to go to the mat fighting for you, I am that fighter. And I look forward to taking your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Okay, so the first question that we have is on the topic of voter access and trust. And Congresswoman Robin Kelly, we will start with you. Many Southland residents face barriers to voting and growing distrust in institutions. What concrete actions would you prioritize in the U.S. Senate to protect voting rights and strengthen civic participation in Illinois?
I know there's been a lot of concern about voting rights, but if you look at even what happened in November 2024, not that I like what happened, but even Democrat and Republicans that oversee voting, it is a safe election. Now we have to fight to make sure that there's not voter suppression and things like that, like has happened a lot in the South. So we have the John Lewis Voting Rights Act that we passed twice in the House, but we have not been able to get it passed in the Senate. And in the Senate, I will be a champion to make sure that what was passed in the House does get passed in the Senate, and that deals with a lot of the things that you're talking about. We also have to make sure that people do know what their rights are. So during voter registration, going to high schools, going to every place that we can go to let people know what their rights are, just in case they run into, something that's illegal or their rights are being suppressed. But the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, again, which we passed twice in the House, but haven't been able to get passed in the Senate, I will be championing that in the Senate.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor, do you need me to repeat the question?
Please.
Okay. So again, it's on the topic of voter access and trust. Many Southland residents face barriers to voting and growing distrust in institutions. What concrete actions would you prioritize in the U.S. Senate to protect voting rights and strengthen civic participation in Illinois?
Well, first of all, let me just say that we have a president right now that does not want to see us have elections. We have a president who wears a hat that says Trump for 2028, even though the Constitution prevents him from running for president again. He has attacked elections. He has said elections are not free and fair. And this is all because he wants us to not have trust in our electoral process. This is a wannabe dictator, and we need real fighters in Washington who are going to stand up for him, and that's exactly what I will do. Let me tell you what we've done right here in Illinois to rebuild trust and to make sure elections remain free and fair. We've expanded access to mail-in ballots. We've expanded the hours of voting. We've made sure that we made Election Day on November, the general election day, a holiday, a state holiday, so people can vote. We have protected and expanded voting rights in Illinois, and that's the leadership we need in Washington, D.C. I will work to pass the John Lewis voting rights in the Senate, but let me tell you what else I will do. I will not vote to confirm one single appointee to the Supreme Court that Donald Trump puts forward. Because right now we're seeing a court that's trying to rubber stamp his authoritarian agenda and take away our voting rights. I won't stand for it.
Thank you. The next question is about representation. Black Illinoisans are politically engaged but often feel underrepresented in federal decision-making. How would you ensure Black communities' voices shape national policy, not just during elections, but year-round? We'll start with Congresswoman Kelly.
I made it a priority in my district to have town hall meetings and tele-town hall meetings so I can hear the voices of my Black constituents, and I would continue to do that. I'm the co-chair and co-founder of the Caucus on Black Women and Girls, so do a lot around that. Representation matters. As a Black woman myself, just bringing my voice and knowing the struggles. I'm the one that brought maternal mortality, morbidity to Congress, and as we know, too many women die, period, but more Black women die than anyone else, and I'm still fighting. As I said, I'm getting ready to introduce the Wells Act, and also I'm very involved with the Congressional Black Caucus, and I travel the country and am a leader in recruiting candidates, helping to raise money for candidates because it's so expensive, as we both know. It's so expensive to run for office, and I will continue to doing all that in the Senate, because in the Senate we do need more Black representation across the United States.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question for you, Lieutenant Governor. It's all about representation, this question. Black Illinoisans are politically engaged but often feel underrepresented in federal decision-making. How would you ensure Black communities' voices shape national policy, not just during elections, but year-round?
Thank you for that question, because there are a lot of people who are very frustrated with what's happening in Washington right now. People feel like no matter who the president is, it doesn't matter because my life isn't changing. Nothing's getting better in my family. Nothing's getting better in my community. And what I have always done, the way that I have always led as a state representative, as your lieutenant governor, and the way that I will lead in the Senate, is by making sure that your voices are centered, that I'm taking your voices with me to Washington, and not just taking your voices, but that we work side by side and in hand on the issues that matter to you. That means that we have to have a dialogue, not a monologue. I can't sit in my office and think I'm going to know what the key issues are for your community. We need to be in dialogue. We need to make sure that I am hearing from you, listening to you, and then acting. Because it's not enough to just say, I hear your voices, or to say that you are represented if there's no action being taken. I'm proud of the work that I've done as lieutenant governor and state rep. As state rep, I made sure that we ended preschool expulsions because Black boys were increasingly being expelled from preschool, 3 and 4-year-olds. That's an example of how I heard from the community and took action. And now, as lieutenant governor, I'm proud of the work that we're doing through the R3 program to invest in Black communities that have been disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs. $280 million has already been invested, and there's more to come. That's the kind of leadership I will bring, working side by side our communities.
Thank you. The next set of questions is all about economic security and jobs. Congresswoman Kelly, this will start with you. Chicago, bless you. Chicago pride runs deep, and for many of us, the Bears are part of Illinois' identity, not just a business. As a candidate for the U.S. Senate representing Illinois, how would you approach efforts to keep the Chicago Bears here in the state while ensuring any public or federal involvement protects taxpayers and delivers real economic benefits to our communities?
Frankly, I've not been a big proponent of cities and states unless they can really see an economic benefit of paying to rebuild a stadium. These owners make a lot of money, and they pay a lot of money to their players, and the only way they can pay a lot of money is because they have the money and people in the audience pay the fees or pay the ticket prices. I don't want to see the Bears leave Illinois, and that would just take a lot of negotiation, but I don't think people don't have enough money to eat, pay their medical bills, rents are high. we need to concentrate, on that. But if they see, I'm not an accountant, if they see there's a benefit to the Bears staying, and I don't see the feds getting involved, because you'd have to get involved in every stadium across the United States. But if the state feels that it's worthwhile to spend money, but the state would know that, but I'm not a proponent of just giving, money away so that professional teams can stay, because the owners have a lot of money and they make a lot of money and they pay out a lot of money.
Thank you. Same question to you, Lieutenant Governor, and I'll repeat it. Chicago pride runs deep, and for many of us, the Bears are part of Illinois' identity, not just a business. As a candidate for the U.S. Senate representing Illinois, how would you approach efforts to keep the Chicago Bears in the state while ensuring any public or federal involvement protects taxpayers and delivers real economic benefits to our communities?
Well, I'm a huge Bears fan, and I think all of us have enjoyed these fourth quarter comebacks over the last season. And I've been really happy that my husband even allowed me to sit with him for the games, because usually he says, you go in another room, because he doesn't want me to bring any bad luck. But what I would say is that right now, with all of the issues that we are facing, as much as I want the Bears to stay in the state of Illinois, and I'm a huge fan, I've not heard the public say that they want their tax dollars to be used to keep the Bears in Illinois. And so there's going to have to be some continued conversation, and I know those conversations will happen at the state level. The state legislature will continue to have those conversations about what it can look like, what that structure and framework can look like. But what I can say is, when I'm talking to voters, what they're saying is they want higher wages. They're saying they want access to health care, and they want to make sure that it's the people, not corporate special interests, that are represented in Washington. And that's the kind of leadership I'm going to bring. My platform is give the people what they want, and that's what I'm going to be focused on.
Thank you, ladies. This next question is all about economic opportunity. And we'll start with you again, Congresswoman Kelly. The Southland has experienced decades of disinvestment. What federal policies would you advance to attract sustainable jobs, support small Black-owned businesses, and build long-term economic stability in the region?
Well, for a very, very, very long time now, I've been a proponent of the South Suburban Airport. We are 90% there. We've done every study. We have people interested in the development of the South Suburban Airport. And to be honest with you, it's the state that has stopped the movement. That's just the truth. And so that would be a big thing that I would want to see finally come to pass. Like I said, we've done all kinds of studies where it would not interfere with O'Hare would not interfere with Midway. I think more programs supporting entrepreneurs. I've done a lot of visits with a lot of small businesses. We need to pull back the tariffs. They're hurting the small businesses. I went to a spice shop. Most spices are not made in the United States. A lot of different businesses I've gone to. So that's one thing in the Senate we have to call back. A lot of things he put in place, but definitely stop the tariffs. That's really, really hurting people. We can't, solicit businesses as a member of the House or the Senate, but I think that we can help try to lay the groundwork. But a lot of it is a state to make us a state that businesses want to come to and want to stay in.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor, again, I'll repeat the question for you. The Southland has experienced decades of disinvestment. What federal policies would you advance to attract sustainable jobs, support small Black-owned businesses, and build long-term economic stability in the region?
Well, when we talk about the economy, let's start with what Donald Trump said. He said that on day one, I'm going to lower prices. On day one, I'm going to lower inflation, and he lied. Not only has he broken that promise, but he has made things worse, and everyday Illinoisans are feeling it. I know you, like me, are feeling it at the grocery store. You're feeling it at the gas pump. Our utility rates are going up. So when we talk about economic development, we have to talk about what is happening at the federal level and how Donald Trump is making it worse, not just for businesses, but for everyday Illinoisans. We also have to remember that Black unemployment has continued to go up, higher than it has been. It's right now 7.5%. And that is under this Trump administration with 319,000 black women being pushed out of the workforce in the first 6 months of his presidency. This is a crisis. And so what we've done in Illinois, we have created thousands of good paying jobs. We've made sure that we brought some stability to our economy, passing 7 consecutive balanced budgets. And we have invested in our small businesses. That is the blueprint that I will take to Washington, D.C. We need stability. It is hard to plan when you have a president and an administration that every single day you wake up and look at the news and say, what now? That is one of the reasons why it's so hard. Bring that stability, and then we can start focusing on the kinds of investments we need.
Thank you. The next question, I'll start again with you, Congresswoman Kelly, and this one is about workforce pathways. How should the federal government partner with community colleges, unions, and employers to create clear workforce pipelines for young people and displaced workers in Illinois?
Actually, I have legislation with Senator Dick Durbin, and I think Senator Duckworth is on it too, where we have, you know how young people can work in the summer, but that we have year-round possibilities for people to work. I started the caucus for PBIs, predominantly black institutions, to try to get more support, more grant money, more federal money to those institutions. So work with Congressman Danny Davis and Jonathan Jackson on that, and we need to do more of that. I have a youth opportunity fair every year, and those are from like 13 years old to 24, just a special fair. So if people want to get internships, jobs, or learn a new hobby, really to build their resume starting from a young age, and we need to do more of that. That's just something we do in my district, but really more resources for community colleges, and I have partnered with this college. I've done a lot of things with Perry State College, all these colleges, Governor State. I've worked with a lot of my colleges. Chicago State is not in my district, but I do a lot of work with them because a lot of my constituents go to that college.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor, the same question. How should the federal government partner with community colleges, unions, and employers to create clear workforce pipelines for young people and displaced workers in Illinois?
Well, I love this question. I said earlier that I'm a mom. I have 4 daughters. And one of my daughters, I remember when she was in high school, she told me she wanted to be a farmer. Now, we live on the south side of Chicago, and I really had no idea how to direct her to be a farmer, so I kept saying, you need to go to college and get your 4-year degree, because that's the way that you can just make sure that you can move forward. I was not familiar with all of the different pathways that my own daughter could have taken and still be successful. So I thought there was this one way, and I think now I know, after talking to so many young people and parents and families across our state, there is not just one path. And we have to help our young people find the path that is best for them. My daughter ended up going to college, she got her degree, she came home, and then she ended up in the middle of the global pandemic. And she came back and said, I want to be a farmer, and she found a program. So she entered that program, and now she is managing an urban farm in Chicago, and she is so happy, and I am so proud of her. But she didn't need the student loan debt that goes with it. She could have gone to a program from the beginning. So we have to do more to make sure our young people know what are the options. One thing that I will fight for in the Senate is to make sure that Pell Grants, which often cover 4-year university and college programs, can be expanded to trade and technical education. Because why are we limiting young people to just one path? Let's open it up and give them some financial assistance to go down that path.
Thank you. The next question is about education equity. From early childhood through college, racial and regional gaps persist in Illinois. What federal investments would you prioritize to improve outcomes for Black students and students in under-resourced communities? Congresswoman Kelly, we'll start with you.
Well, by the time I get to the Senate, we're going to have to build back the Department of Education, period, because he's trying to destroy everything. First of all, we have to, with the disability program, the federal government is supposed to pay 40%. We have not lived up to that yet. We have to live up to that. Again, have to build back the Department of Education, because that's where teachers are protected, that's where teachers are developed, that's where civil rights for teachers and students and parents happen. We also have to protect Title I. That's how low-income communities get the money that they get, and teachers get the development that they need. So we're going to need to build the house back again, and also we have to support, teachers when it comes to unions, and not try to tear down unions, but be supportive of unions. If people want to form unions, they have that right, and not try to micromanage unions. So just building back up the department because of civil rights reasons, IDEA reasons, Title I reasons. I've spoken to some of my school districts. One told me they were in the hole $2 million, but because they're educators and superintendents, they're going to make it work. But we need not make people struggle so much to educate our children who are our future and will be our next congresspeople, news ladies, plumbers, whatever, it happens to be.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question for you, Lieutenant Governor. From early childhood through college, racial and regional gaps persist in Illinois. What federal investments would you prioritize to improve outcomes for Black students and students in under-resourced communities?
Well, the mother that I spoke of that I cared for through her final years was a public school teacher. And so education is critical to me. And I often think about the fact that my paternal grandmother had an 8th grade graduation, paternal grandfather had a 6th grade education. And I think about the fact that now their granddaughter is running for the United States Senate. It's an example of the power of education. We not only have to build back the Department of Education, because quite frankly, where the Department of Education was, all of our children were not being adequately educated. And we have to make sure that when we continue to build it back, we also have to transform it to make sure that equity is right at the center. Equity is a word that this president does not even want us to talk about. And he supports that by stripping away our history. Some of you saw just yesterday that in Pennsylvania, they were taking away the mention of slavery off of one of the national park buildings. He does not want us to be educated, because when people are not educated, they don't ask questions. So we must make sure from early childhood to K through 12 to higher education that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that all children, no matter their zip code, get an adequate and excellent education. And this includes investing like we have in Illinois to erase preschool deserts, eliminate preschool deserts, making college more affordable, because half of that is that too many young people are saddled with debt by going after a 4-year college degree, and again, creating pathways to trades and technical education. Those are the kinds of things that will help us get there.
Thank you. I just want to say this to the audience: if you can silence your phones, that would be very much appreciated. The next question, in terms of education and youth, Black borrowers disproportionately carry student loan debt. What is your position on federal student loan debt relief, and how would your approach address racial wealth gaps? Starting with you, Congresswoman Kelly.
I do think we definitely need to do more as far as student loan debt relief, as far as colleges being free to everybody. People have talked about that, but there's some people that can definitely afford it, but as far as low income, and I would say middle income communities, I was a middle income parent, and I had 2 kids in college, and that was rough. I took out a loan, my kids took out a loan. My daughter, I remember she paid $110 a month, for her loan, and it took her 15 to 20 years to pay. So we definitely need to, first of all, on the federal level, lower our interest rates that students have to pay when they borrow money. And also, I think we need to give students or graduates a way to pay back the money, but not from their pockets. Like, I know doctors and other people that have gone to places and worked off their loans, and that way gave service to work off their loans. So I think that we need to look into more programs like that. I don't know if it will ever be totally where you pay back nothing. Some people feel like you're getting something out of it, but I do feel like we need to do more for low income, but also middle income. People tend to look at your salary and tell you what you can afford, and I think we need to, move away from that and give more grants and increase what we give to college students, and again, lower the federal interest rate level.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question for you, Lieutenant Governor. Black borrowers disproportionately carry student loan debt. What is your position on federal student debt relief, and how would you approach and address racial wealth gaps?
When it comes to Black borrowers, I think first and foremost, we have to cap student loan interest rates. There are students who take out a particular loan, and it's not the principal that increases, it's the interest rates. So that 10 years go by, 20 years go by, and you look at what you owe, and it is as much as it was when you took out the loan because the interest rates continue to go up and balloon. We need to make sure that we cap interest rates on student loans, and that's something that I will fight for as your next United States Senator. The other thing, though, that we have to look at is what are the basic needs that students have? I did a tour as Lieutenant Governor of all of our state universities, and you know what one of the #1 issues that I saw on campus? Food insecurity. Every single campus had a food pantry where students would line up because they didn't have enough food and they were going hungry. No student can focus under those circumstances. So we have to understand that just because you go to a campus, it doesn't mean your basic needs are met. We need to make sure students have access to broadband, that they have housing assistance, and that they can get SNAP benefits so they can make sure that they have their basic needs met, because that will allow students to stay in school. Because remember, when you go to school and you go start paying your tuition, if you have to drop out because your basic needs aren't met, you still owe that debt. We need to make sure students have what they need while they're on campus.
Thank you. The next set of questions surrounds health and wellness. Healthcare costs and workforce burnout. If elected to the U.S. Senate for Illinois, how would you use your vote and platform to lower out-of-pocket healthcare costs for families while also addressing the burnout and workforce shortages threatening primary care and mental health services across the state? I'll start with you, Congresswoman Kelly.
If we switch the order of response, Congresswoman Kelly respond first.
That's fine, we can do that. Thank you. We'll start with Lieutenant Governor.
Well, thank you so much. We have a president right now who does not want a healthy America. They use it as a slogan, make America healthy again, but everything that they are doing is to make us sicker and less healthy. They're stripping away health care every single day from millions of Americans, stripping away Medicaid coverage, attacking the Affordable Care Act subsidies. These are the things that we are seeing from this administration, and if we want a healthier America, a healthier Illinois, what I want to fight for is Medicare for all, because I believe healthcare is a right and not a privilege, and everyone should have access to a doctor when they need one. You talk about somebody and some of the burnout. One of the biggest issues is because when we talk about affordability, the biggest issue around affordability is healthcare. People deciding whether they're going to go to the doctor or pay their rent. That is an unacceptable and false choice. And we need to make sure everyone who needs a doctor can get one. And I will fight for Medicare for all, because that is the only way this system, which is broken, can give people the health care that they need, whether it's physical or mental health care resources.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question for you, Congresswoman Kelly. If elected to the U.S. Senate for Illinois, how would you use your vote and platform to lower out-of-pocket healthcare costs for families while also addressing the burnout and workforce shortages threatening primary care and mental health services across the state?
I'm proud to say I've already used my voice. I'm on Energy and Commerce on the Health Subcommittee, and I've been the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Health Brain Trust for many years now. So I voted for lower drug costs, like insulin is now $35. I've passed legislation for dental care in underserved communities. It was my legislation that took Medicare postpartum period from 60 days to a year to try to help stop the death of Black women in particular. I feel like gun violence is a public health crisis, so I have a master's in counseling, have fought for more money for mental health. I too believe in universal health care in the richest country in the history of the world. There is no reason why people, no matter where you live, urban, suburban, and rural, suffer. I had a farmer that had to drive 60 miles to the hospital for his wife to have a baby. She wasn't ready. They sent her back 60 miles. She was ready after 20 minutes of being home. He went back 60 miles. We cannot have healthcare deserts or maternal health deserts. I brought back resources to my clinics here so they could do a better job and have the resources they need. So I would fight for Medicare for all or universal health care, whatever we could get to. And I helped with the Affordable Care Act being passed in Congress just now so that to protect premium prices from going up. We just have to have people put the pressure on the Senate to make sure they pass it also. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question. Black? Oh, you've answered the question, sorry. Look at me. Okay, so we'll start with you again, Lieutenant Governor, on this question. This surrounds health disparities. So Black Illinoisans experience higher rates of maternal mortality, chronic illness, and reduced access to care. What federal solutions would you champion to address these inequities?
Well, as a Black woman and the mom of 4 Black daughters, this issue specifically of maternal mortality, it's a crisis all across our country. In Illinois, Black women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications. And I know that my daughters have shared that their friends have had conversations of whether it's worth it to risk trying to have a baby in this society with those statistics. When I heard that, I called Governor Pritzker 2 years ago and I said, I'm proud of what we've done to make Illinois a real oasis for reproductive freedom, but Black women are still dying and we need to do something about it. And he said, absolutely, get to work on that. And so I brought together Black doulas and midwives, and we sat and had conversations. And now, because of my leadership here in Illinois, we cover doulas, midwives, lactation consultants, whether you are covered by private insurance or Medicaid, no copay. We also make sure that you have home visits 1 year postpartum. We're addressing diaper need because 50% of families in this country can't afford clean diapers. And when you don't have clean diapers for your baby, the daycare center says you can't even bring your child, which means that you can't work. And right now we put $1 million to what will be the first Southside birthing center that will be opening up on the south side of Chicago, a maternal health care desert. That's the kind of leadership that I will bring as your next United States Senator to make sure that our voices and our communities are centered.
Thank you. The same question to you, Congresswoman Kelly, and I'll repeat it for you.
No.
You don't need it? Okay, you got it? Okay, go for it.
I am a leader in health disparities and maternal mortality and morbidity. I am the one, after listening to a constituent that said, I want to tell you a story about someone who died. I hit the ground running right away. You heard me say it was my legislation that took the postpartum coverage period from 60 days to a year. Medicare for all will help with that. And Black women die 3 to 1 on average in the United States. They die higher in the state of Illinois, even though the state of Illinois was the first person to step up when we got the Medicaid postpartum period. Illinois, I was proud to say, was the first person to step up. And I have a Care for Moms Act, and that covers payment for doulas and lifting doulas up and midwives across the United States. Again, I told you I started the caucus on Black women and girls. We deal with healthcare issues around Black women and girls. Not that we leave out the guys, but they have a caucus already. And I've run hearings where I've had Tatiana Ali and Allison Felix come and testify along with us to show if you're Black, it doesn't matter. If you're wealthy, in good shape, or well educated, we still die more than white women with a high school diploma. So I've done so much in this arena, but more needs to be done. Again, having to introduce the Wells Act when I go back to Congress next week. And we hosted forums in Illinois also, so thank you.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor, this question starts with you, and it's surrounding mental health. What role should the federal government play in expanding affordable, culturally competent mental health services, particularly for youth and seniors?
Well, it's critically important that the federal government supports greater investments in mental health, and that's why we need to expand access to health care in general. I told you that the way that I even started running for office was caring for my mother, who had Alzheimer's. And I can tell you that one of the things that we see too often, and as somebody who has represented the entire state of Illinois, I see the specific isolation that often happens with our elders in communities without feeling like they have a real support system. And that becomes something that then becomes a mental health issue, especially in our rural communities, but not just in our rural communities. But where people do not have that social service safety net where they can connect with others and get what they need, it becomes a problem. Similarly, for our young people, I was the chief sponsor of the bill that passed in Illinois when I was a state representative to end school-based booking stations. Some of you may not even know what that is. It was that I would go into schools and I would see rooms that were set up to book students or arrest them. And think about what that meant mental health-wise for a young person to come to school and see a room where they could be processed for arrest. I put an end to that, and now that cannot happen in Illinois anymore. And I raise that to say, from every level, we have to look at the everyday issues, and cultural competence is critical, because if they don't have providers and therapists or counselors that look like them and understand their struggles, they're not going to seek the services, and we need to change that.
Thank you. Do you need to repeat the question? Okay.
Mental health is my background. As I said, I have a master's in counseling, and we definitely need more counselors of color. I have to say that again, if anybody's thinking about it, we definitely need more counselors of color, because people tend to do better when it's people that look like them, or at least understand the reality of their situation. When we get Medicare for All done, you know, physical health and mental health need to be included in that. We need to stop closing facilities that people can go to. Again, there's too many healthcare deserts, whether it's physical or mental. We need to expand with federally qualified healthcare centers to not only make sure they have physical doctors, making sure they have counselors or social workers or therapists. We also need to make sure our schools have nurses, social workers, or therapists in the schools. Too many schools struggle, you know, with doing that. And I've heard from, and working with police officers, that there's so many kids that are just on the cliff, and if they just had someone that they could talk to, just had someone that they could relate to, maybe they can't do it in their homes, that would save a lot of our kids. So just investing in the mental health community, I think the federal government can do more in incentivizing people to go into the field. Again, college is expensive, post-college, master's is very expensive too, but we need to do something around this issue, because it is, again, even going back to gun violence, the #1 cause of gun violence is suicide, and we need to do more to stop that.
Thank you. The next set of questions surrounds public safety and justice. In this first question, we will start with Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. Communities want both safety and fairness. How would you balance federal investments in community-based violence prevention with accountability in policing and the justice system?
Public safety must be first. Every single Illinoisan deserves to be safe in their homes, in their communities, in their schools, and that is leadership that I have provided for my entire career. When we talk about investments in our community, because that is a critical piece, there's lots of other things that hopefully we'll have time to talk about, but in the short time that I have, I want to talk about our R3 program, Restore, Reinvest, and Renew program. Because thus far we have put $280 million, and I chair this board, and we built this program in the office of the Lieutenant Governor. And that $280 million goes towards violence prevention, youth development, economic development, re-entry services, and civil legal aid. And re-entry is important because we have to talk about how our communities have been disproportionately incarcerated, and then people do come back to the community, but when people don't have access to housing and healthcare and jobs and education, then too often they cycle in and out, and we need to make sure that we give people what they need to be supportive and they can continue productive lives in their communities. I want you to know, by the way, we have a $50 million notice of funding opportunity that just got released this month for community-based organizations that will add to that $280 million. And if you're affiliated, I hope you will go to r3.illinois.gov if you have an organization that might qualify for those funds.
Thank you. Congresswoman Kelly, do you need me to repeat the question? You got it? Okay.
13 years ago when I ran for Congress, I ran on gun violence prevention. Newtown happened, Hydeia Pendleton happened, and then it just happened. But one thing in Congress, we always talked about the mass shootings, and my voice was the everyday shootings. You know, we stood up, sat down, did nothing. Even for the mass shootings, and one day I decided I'm not gonna stand up. So I was the only one that sat down out of 435 House members, but I was sick of it. And from there, I helped lead the sit-in that we had with John Lewis. And even though something didn't happen right away, but slowly but surely, we were able to pass for the first time in 30 years a bipartisan Safer Communities Act. And my part of it was a straw purchasing and the trafficking. Because as you know, Chicago has tough gun laws, but if no one else around you has tough gun laws, then it's really hard to enforce your laws. So my part of it, as I said, was the trafficking and the straw purchasing. There's legislation stopping the cycle of violence. We keep pushing legislation, universal background checks. We still don't have that. Closing the Charleston loophole where, you know, you can buy a gun. If it's not definitively no, you can't buy the gun, then you can get the gun. And that's how the 9 members of Mother Emanuel died, because they sold the guy the gun. And then 2 days after he killed everybody, they said, don't sell it to him. So, you know, we have to pass legislation, but we also have to get to the root causes to stop the cycle of violence. Mentoring, education, parenting, giving kids hope, you know, jobs, hobbies, those kind of things. And there's a good program in Illinois called Project Unloaded, and that's what they work at, the root causes. Donald Trump just took back $158 million from across the United States for gun violence prevention programs, 16 million in Illinois.
Thank you. The next question, Lieutenant Governor, is what unfinished federal reforms are most urgent to you, and how would they impact Black families in Illinois?
Well, there are a lot of things that have not gotten done, and I think that by and large is the problem, that people feel like Washington, like I said earlier, no matter who's the president, they're wondering when are things going to happen that are going to benefit my family. Why is my life not changing? I don't see access to opportunity. Things continue to get more and more expensive. I don't have access to health care. And what I would say what needs to change is we need to make sure that it is the people's needs that are right at the center and not corporate special interests. I'm very proud to be the only leading candidate in this race that's not accepting any corporate PAC money in this race. And the reason why that's important is because too often people feel like nothing is getting done because corporate special interests are right at the center rather than the needs of everyday people. And I can tell you, I'm going to fight for everyday people. I'm going to fight for each and every one of you, and I'm going to take your voices with me to Washington, because people are fed up and they are tired of the wealthier getting wealthy and the rest of us continuing to say, when is something going to happen to make my life better? That's the kind of leadership we need right now to meet this moment, and that's the kind of leadership I will bring as your next United States Senator.
Thank you. Okay, I'll repeat the question for you, Congresswoman. What unfinished federal reforms are most urgent to you, and how would they impact Black families in Illinois?
First of all, as a next U.S. Senator, I would call back, what we just passed in the big ugly bill, which very much affects Black families and how we can improve. I mean, giving the wealthiest upon wealthiest over $1 trillion in tax credits, but our voting rights is a big issue. Economic development for Black families is a big issue. I will say, under Joe Biden's leadership, the unemployment level for Black and Brown was the lowest that it ever was, except in Chicago, interestingly enough. I do take corporate PAC money, but check my record. Check my record. I vote like the people want me to vote. I know who put me in office, and I know who can take me out of office, but at least you see who I get money from. When you have other kind of PACs, you don't see who puts money in those PACs. So yes, I do take it. It costs money to be in Congress. My dues are $550,000, and then I help everybody I can help to get to Congress too, because I'm a leader, I'm a recruiter. So yes, I do take, not everybody, but I do take some, and I'm not ashamed of it because I vote like I know I'm supposed to vote. So I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. We do want to open it up to audience questions. I do want to point to the fact that we have 10 minutes for audience questions, and you will go to that microphone with your question.
Actually, we've already selected the people who will give questions,
Okay,
and they are Lego participants.
so you already know who you are, who will be stepping to this microphone with your questions. Please come on down.
6th to 8th grader, or you can go to the high school first. Please say your name and your question.
Hi, my name is Nia Allen, and my question is, how do you plan on addressing ICE presence in Chicago and surrounding areas if and when ICE comes back?
Whomever wants to start first to answer the questions.
Well, let me begin by saying I want to abolish ICE. I do not see this being the type of agency that can be reformed. We are seeing what's happening. We saw Operation Midway Blitz in Illinois, where masked agents coming to our streets, snatching people off the streets and putting them into unmarked cars. We've now seen people killed. Just another shooting today. A woman, a United States citizen killed. We saw a 5-year-old being detained. That cannot be reformed. So to me, this agency should not exist. And in the meantime, I, as a senator, would not only fight for that, but I would also fight to make sure that they are unmasked, that there's identifying information, and that we cannot continue with a $150 billion budget for ICE when people don't have access to health care or food benefits or anything else that they need. It is wrong.
Thank you. Congresswoman Kelly.
Well, I filed impeachment papers against Kristi Noem, and right now we have at least 111 Democrats that have signed, and I even hear whispers some Republicans want to get rid of her also. I think that ICE needs to be dismantled, but I think it needs to be a part of a bigger picture of immigration reform, whether on the border, asylum, the dreamers that are here, the over 11 million undocumented that are here paying Social Security, paying into things that will not see any benefit. We do need immigration and custom enforcement. I'm not going to say that, but I think it needs to be dismantled, and we in the whole scheme of immigration reform. How do we do it and do it the right way and have the right people on the border, the right people dealing with asylum, giving people that have given back to this country. And, I know we talk a lot about Latino, but Black Haitians, Jamaicans, Black Mexicans, on and on and on. It affects us very much also. So I think it's a big part of immigration reform, and Kristi Noem needs to be gone, as well as his other incompetent cabinet.
Thank you.
I did just vote not to give DHS any more money, so ICE won't get any more.
Thank you. We'll have the next person come up with the question. And keep in mind for our candidates, the answers are 1 minute. It's okay.
Good morning. My name is Risa Jenkins. I'm a little bit nervous, and I am so honored to be here. I have one question, and you both answered that, but I would love to just ask again, and I don't know if I'm allowed to ask 2 more. Nope, just one? Okay.
Just one.
I'm looking at which one was that? My apologies. Okay, so as DEI initiatives and Black-focused programs are eliminated across education and workforce systems, what concrete supports will replace them to ensure Black students and professionals have access, belonging, and strong outcomes from early education through career?
Thank you. Congresswoman Kelly, would you like to start?
Thank you for the question. Some of this that we've talked about today, at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. We, as a CBC member, we are putting pressure on all of these, Target, Walgreens, on and on and on. We're watching because we notice how some of their Black employees that are dealing with DEI, so we are watching, and we're watching the help that we may or may not give to them, or legislation that may or may not pass because of things that they're doing. But the bottom line is, and I'm just speaking as a Democrat, we are fighting with one arm tied behind our back because they do have the numbers that we don't have. That's why it's so, I know you're nonpartisan, but that's why November 2026 is just so very important. That is one of the main ways we can stop this man.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor?
I think about your question, and it is a very important question because right now we have an administration that is specifically attacking, and even with what the last question about ICE, a Supreme Court that is rubber stamping the effort to turn back the clock and allow racial profiling and to remove what DEI was always created to do, which was to bring some sort of leveling of the playing field after this country's history. And so when we recognize that, it will be important to have voices in Washington who reflect our communities and who will make sure that we will be strong voices to ensure that when we talk about education, that we are making sure that the Black community's needs are prioritized as well. When we talk about economic development in our businesses, that we talk about how to make sure our businesses can continue to contract with the federal government, and that our small businesses don't just get loans, but get grants, because by the way, the banks aren't giving our small businesses any loans. It's important that we center it in healthcare because right now there are communities in one zip code in Chicago that if you go 10 miles away, the life expectancy is 20 years where we are dying at earlier rates. So this attack on DEI, it is a matter of life or death. I will be a voice to make sure that we center our voices and pass legislation that will reflect that.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Okay. Is this our final question? This is our final question.
Hi, my name is Phoebe, and my question is, you mentioned putting more into mental health. Can you share 1 or 2 concentrate actions that will directly support children and teens in the near future, specifically African Americans?
Yes, thank you for that. You said Phoebe? Was that you? Okay, thank you for that question because I told you that I'm a mom of 4 and mental health is so important. And number 1, we have to eliminate the stigma around mental health. There are too many people, and young people in particular, that don't know that it's okay to talk about their mental health struggles and their needs. And there's not enough resources from people that they can trust, that they can say, I can talk to that person because they look like me and they'll understand. So one of the things that I would love to see when we talk about cuts to the department and dismantling the Department of Education. Title I funding will also help us make sure that there is funding for counseling and other mental health resources in our most under-resourced schools. That's one. And something that I did here right in Illinois is I led the Healing Centered Illinois Task Force. And that's important because too many of our systems are actually causing some of the mental health struggles that so many see. And if you're at a school that's not supportive of you, we need to make sure that we're looking at systems to make it reflect what's needed for our communities.
Thank you. Congresswoman Kelly?
My two things would be more investment, incentive for mental health counselors, so more people go into the field, so you have people you can go to. So often I hear that people have to wait 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, so that would alleviate some of that, and then more investment in mental health centers or federally qualified healthcare centers that actually have mental health counselors there, and then also going back to having counselors in the schools right there where young people are.
Thank you. So for each candidate, you will have 2 minutes for your closing statement, and we will start with Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you again to the South Suburban Chicago chapter of the Links Incorporated for hosting, and thank you again, Tia, for moderating today's conversation. I do want to say right off the bat how important it is to show up. And as you know, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy didn't show up here, so how are you going to expect him to show up for you in Washington, D.C.? This race is really a choice. It's a choice between the status quo, and it's a choice between the status quo versus new energy that is ready to bring the kind of courage and bold leadership that is needed in Washington, D.C. People are looking for leaders who will meet the kind of energy that we are seeing in the streets right now. People who are going to bring the energy, new ideas, and new perspectives that are going to meet this moment as we have a wannabe dictator in the White House who wants to strip away our health care, our food assistance, and all of our rights. I'm running to give the people what they want. What do people want? They want higher wages, and I'm fighting for a $25 an hour minimum wage because anything less right now just will not give people a livable wage. I'm fighting for Medicare for all because no one should be deciding between seeing a doctor and paying their bills. And I'm fighting to get corporate PAC money out of Washington, D.C. because this should be about the people and not corporate special interest. People are fed up with the wealthier getting wealthier and the rest of us having to struggle and just go along to get along. That is not okay. Government should work for the people, and I will be a leader to make that happen. Please learn more at julianastratton.com and join the team. Thank you.
Thank you. Congresswoman Kelly?
Thank you to the Links again and everyone that showed up in this very cold weather. I am Robin Kelly. I'm the daughter of a grocer and a postal worker. I'm a mom and a proud public servant, and I've taken on the powerful interest in one, the NRA, Big Pharma, political bullies, and I have won. I know how to fight. I have the energy. I've been a leader, and I still am a leader in Congress. Ask my colleagues. That's why so many of them support me and want to see me in the Senate, so they have someone in the Senate that we can work with. You do have a choice. You can have transformative, or you can have transactional. You can have someone with experience doing the job that has done the job. As I said, I'm a workhorse, not a show horse. It's easy to say what's been done in Illinois, but in the federal government, as I said, I've been in Congress 13 years, only in the majority. 4 of those years is not a bunch of Democrats voting to get bills passed. You need to build relations, know how to work on the other side of the aisle, and get things done. And that's what I'm known for. Robin Kelly gets it done. And I'm Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Thanks for being here. I'm humbly asking for your support. I've been proud to represent so many of you for 13 years. Join the fight. RobinForSenate.com.
Give both of our candidates a round of applause for being here.